Hello and welcome to the Basement Podcast. I am who's our wrestlers for this week? I am Owen Hart before he fell off the rafters and died.
Ugh, you really
And
want to
that
put that,
is
you
Bret
really want
Hart.
to speak that death over yourself, that literal death over yourself?
Everybody dies. And everybody
I'm Diesel.
Yeah, oh, Diesel and Scott Hall did come to mind this morning. Diesel,
Yeah,
Scott Hall,
you missed the window. Diesel.
Diesel and Scott Hall here
Well, no,
recording.
it's no. You're mixing WWF and WCW because it was Razor Ramon and Diesel were in WWF. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash were in WCW. Kevin Nash was Diesel, and he
Well,
was
before
like Shawn
duh.
Michaels, like wingman sometimes.
Sometimes we need Steven Buss and our brother Alex to come on and we'll just talk
Yeah,
through the different iterations
yeah.
of all of the combinations of people.
Well, yeah, I did. Here we are, and I'm going to admit this on. I was about to say on live television. I am not on live television. Anyway, but I had. Remember when we would like order stuff? And this was like before the internet. So I think like mom had to like call some number on the TV or I don't know to order merchandise. And we would order like t-shirts. I remember getting a Diesel leather gloves.
Yeah,
And
the leather gloves were
Alex,
awesome.
the leather gloves are awesome. Like the cut off fingers,
Yeah,
Diesel across the yeah. And Alex got Shawn Michaels
and they were
and
red.
yeah, the Shawn Michaels t-shirt and the red Shawn Michaels gloves.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was
They
great.
were.
We should get those and wear them on the show.
I think the one thing I did think about this week was like we're going to be placing bets against each other on this podcast,
I hope
and
so.
the
I
bet
am gonna take all of your money.
the loser of the bet has to dress up in certain things or has to the one bet that I wanted to do was like if you lose a bet we have to ship well, you're going to lose this bet. We're going to ship
Yeah.
that big portrait of mom in her wedding gown alone with the golden frame, and you have to put it behind you for an entire episode.
I have no idea what you're referring to. I
Yeah,
have
you
no
do.
idea
It's
what
in the.
this.
I'll show you in the summer. It's amazing. It's amazing.
I know of no picture of mom alone in her wedding dress. I mean, it's on brand. Like
I've
that's yeah.
I've been fighting for her to just put it up in her house on her wall in the living room, just as the centerpiece. But she's denied it so far.
Yeah.
Anywho, last week, in an episode that no one's going to hear because we said too many dangerous things, we talked about Jim Leland, and that's how we're
We
going
were minefields everywhere. We
to
were tiptoeing
we're
around mines.
we're going to
We
start
made a
off.
couple of them explode. We
Yeah,
might have lost a leg or two.
we
Yeah,
would
but
have
go
been
on.
we would have been canceled in a week if we would have aired that episode. So we're
Yeah.
gonna just
Yeah,
stuff that
yeah.
one down. We did talk
I
about
mean,
Jim
it's
Lee's
not like
one.
we're not under threat getting canceled this week. This entire show is going to be minefields. But
This
yeah,
is
go ahead.
a tightrope every single week. Uh,
Yeah.
we talked about Jim Leland and
Yeah. And you
how
said he was 62, and I think you were making a joke and I didn't pick up on it. No, he's 81.
well. I want to point something out. Okay, for those of you who are just listening to this podcast, hop on over to the YouTube where this is going to be posted. The Legends Attic YouTube, probably that's where you're going to want to find it. And you're going to want to watch this portion because I'm going to show Andy two pictures. I'm going to show Andy two pictures of Jim Leland, and he's going to tell me which one Jim Leland is younger
Is
in
Oh, I like this
because
game. This is a
because
good
I'm not
game.
sure there's going to be a difference. All right,
Really good game.
I'm going to show you this one first.
Yeah. All right. I gotta hold on. I gotta move this. Okay.
You got to get your glasses.
No. Oh, my camera's right in the middle of it. You're messing with. All right, go ahead.
All right, there's Jim Leland picture one.
Got it.
All right, let's now go to Jim Leland picture two. Do you see do you see a difference between these
Yeah.
two
So
pictures?
yeah, obviously he is a little bit older in the Tigers picture than in the Baseball Hall of Fame picture by about 13 years.
I just want to point out, no, that's obviously not correct. He's older in the he's older in the Baseball Hall of Fame picture. But my point here is, last week I made a joke that Jim Leland was only 62 as of last week.
Yeah.
I want to point out that I think Jim Leland has cured aging. I think
Hmm.
I think he unlocked something. He said, "I'm
Yeah.
going to sit out in the sun and I'm going to smoke so many cigarettes that I'm going to
That I'm just
age."
gonna look the same forever. He did that at 24. And that picture that you have up of the Tigers as a Tigers manager right there, that was also him at like that's what he looked like at 24. That's what he looked like at 42.
Yeah,
That's what
that's
he
my
looked like at
that's exactly my
62.
point. That's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah,
my
yeah,
point.
yeah.
He
Yeah,
hit
yeah.
the picture of the Detroit Tigers. I'm pretty sure he's 50 years old in this photo. Like he's cured aging. So
He would have been about 60, I
yeah,
think.
and he looks pretty much the exact same now at 82. And
Yeah.
that all goes to
Good for
show,
him.
hey,
Good for him.
just for all the things about skin cancer and not sitting in the sun and smoking cigarettes, if you don't want to age, that's what you do.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share
If you want to look the same over the
forever,
decades,
forever. Jim Leland.
just light them up. Well, I did a light them up. There we go. And sit out in the sun.
All righty. Getting
Agreed.
into getting into the business of the week. We're into, a month into the baseball season, a month and a week or so. And some players, we talked again last week about how we're not going to be doing like recaps of series and stuff like that, but we try to look for trends in this show. We try to look for, overall overarching topics that we can kind of discuss patterns and stuff like that. And the one that I'm looking at this week is there's a couple players. We're gonna name them Ben Brown of the Chicago Cubs, Ildemaro Vargas of the Arizona Diamondbacks, and
Raking.
Kyle Tucker of the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Not raking.
Not Reagan. And with each of these guys, they have kind of an interesting thing happening in their game, that we kind of want to just dissect and set some. What are we talking about here? Are these guys? Let's take a case by case, starting with Kyle Tucker. Okay, Kyle Tucker is hitting just above 240. He had a good night last night. He had an RBI single against the Astros and a solo home run. But Kyle Tucker has been by his by his numbers
Own
underperforming
standards, his
by his own
historical
standards.
metrics. Yeah.
He's been underperforming for the Dodgers this season based on the amount of money he's been given. And the first thing that we kind of want to talk about, and again, in context of all three of these guys, is like, when do you know a guy has kind of lost it versus when do you define a player as his skill? When do you define a player as like, this is who this guy is? In the case of Ben Brown, first couple of years of his career, he was supposed to be really good. And now, he kind of struggled early on in his career, just finding it a little bit. He only had two pitches and he kind of got roughed up in his first couple of years. They expected him to be a starter. He got moved to the pen. This year, he's been really good. He's been
Yeah.
really solid. I mean, outside of a leadoff walk last night that led to a run.
A run in the eighth. Yeah.
Yeah, he's been really
But he
solid.
still shut him down after that. I mean, it was
Yeah,
Cincinnati put something together and they scored on that, but he looked okay in that inning.
yeah, he got three outs right after he let off
Yeah.
the single that led to the run. And then in the case of Ildemaro
Raking.
Vargas is hitting, I
Best
think,
hitter in the game right now.
380. He had a
Can't stop
24
hitting.
he had a 24 game hit streak going
Yeah.
into the series against the Cubs, and which ended on Saturday. But Ildemaro Vargas is a guy who is sort of just like,
Nobody knows his name.
I know his name. I just said it like
Well,
three
you do
times.
now.
Yeah.
You do
Oh,
now
yeah.
only
Okay,
because the
got it.
Cubs just played Arizona.
No, he was on the
And
Cubs
because,
too.
yeah, because he's raking, and because they made the joke on the broadcast of he's fine today, but he'll be ill tomorrow, which is
Ildemaro.
great. I mean,
Ildemaro.
that's baseball humor right there. That's the joke you're supposed to tell.
If you don't know anything about Ildemaro Vargas is a bit of a journeyman since he entered the league. He came up with the Diamondbacks, and he's a utility guy, mostly plays second base, and he's just sort of like
He was on the Cubs for a day, wasn't he?
he was on
He
the
was on
Cubs
the Cubs for a
he was
spell.
he was on the Cubs for three different stints. Uh,
Wow. I didn't know that.
and he's one of these
I've
guys.
watched every Cubs game for the past 12 years. I did
I
not know
still
that.
can't remember. He's a guy who hits like in the mid 200s, and
Yeah.
he's just kind of like like a
very forgettable,
slot you in.
nondescript.
Right.
He is a nondescript 11th guy
Yeah.
kind of thing. He's a bench player. Yeah.
And now he's hitting fourth in the Arizona Diamondbacks
Yeah.
lineup, and the Arizona Diamondbacks
Yeah.
are
Or
third in the
yeah,
West in one of the
near the top of the
harder
lineup. Yeah.
divisions. Right. And so, in the case of each of these guys, I think we're looking at each of these guys at different areas of the career or different time points in their career, and kind of just wondering, like, how did Ildemaro Vargas get here? Is this who he truly is as a player, or is he more like the guy that we
Are we
saw for the
seeing as
first
one
6 years?
shining moment?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. In the case of Ben Brown, is this the new Ben Brown? Is this what we can expect from him for the rest of his career? You know, is he going to be the 2.14 ERA guy? Is he going to slot in as a long reliever forever, or is he going to move to the starter? And then in the case of Kyle Tucker, he's had he's got a few years under his belt now. He's in his early 30s or 30. He just got a big contract. He played really well for the Cubs in the first half of the season, and then he broke a bone in his hand
And
or
then he
something like that.
didn't.
And
Yeah.
then, he stopped hitting the balls hard. And I think if you watch Dodger games, I don't watch a ton of them, but if you watch some of the games, he's not hitting the ball as hard as he did in the first half of the season with the Cubs. And so you're wondering, is this now who Kyle Tucker is? So, with all that as context and all of that as just kind of painting the board, Andy, your thoughts on just kind of how do we define players? When do we get to a point where we can say that guy is this guy in terms of his statistics and who he is as a player? And then when do we say, oh, like, how much time do you give before you say, no, this guy's done?
Yeah. I think the conversation goes in a bunch of different directions, and it's kind of multidimensional because I think it's a little bit different for both hitters and pitchers. I think that's one kind of dimension you got to look along is it different for hitters and pitchers? And the other one is obviously we're talking about two things at once. We're talking about how do you know a guy is washed up? How do you know he's done? That's the Kyle Tucker bucket. We're putting Kyle Tucker in that conversation is, oh man, terrible start to the season, terrible end to last season, and then a terrible beginning to this season. Is this guy done? And then the other bucket is, wow, this guy did nothing for years and now he's lighting it up. What are we doing? So I think there's a lot of different dimensions to this conversation. The first thing I will say, can I stick with the pitchers? Because I think this was interesting is I find it interesting those guys who like the Brewers. I think this was in the Wall Street Journal just a couple days ago. It's like the Brewers do a great job at finding. Jared Diamond wrote the article, which not that Jared Diamond.
Guns,
I
germs,
do
and steel?
wonder. Not good. Yeah, I wonder the baseball writer Jared Diamond for the Wall Street Journal. I wonder how many times he's gotten a, oh man, Guns, Germs, and Steel, great book, loved it. I'm
Guns,
not
germs, and
that
steel.
one. Not that Jared Diamond.
Well, doesn't
Do you
Jared...
want? I'm going to go on a. Do you want the same name as somebody famous so that you can take the recognition and the cred if somebody gives it to you?
Not if I'm the Wall Street Journal,
But not
guy,
like
because
super famous. Like your name can't be like Brad Pitt. It's like a Jared Diamond. It's like, oh yeah, like I know that book.
Well, in the case of Jared Diamond, no, because he's also a writer, and I bet you he wants to get recognized for his own writing and not somebody else's.
Good point.
Now, if my name was Jared Diamond, I'd be like, yeah, I wrote that book, Guns, Germs, and Steel. I wrote it. But doesn't that Jared Diamond spell his name weird, or am I thinking of a different Jared?
I think it's the same spelling. Anyway,
I bet you Jared Diamond is a baseball fan. I want to watch a baseball game with the Guns, Germs, and Steel Jared Diamond.
I want to watch a baseball game with both of them.
Yeah.
One of them can talk about the macro historical trends and how dynasties collapse, and the other one can talk about Quentin Priester for the Brewers. Yeah,
but like, I bet you Guns, Germs, and Steel Jared Diamond has like a really thoughtful response to why the Patriots dynasty collapsed after Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
That's
his next book.
Yeah, no, for
how
sure.
dynasties collapse
in sports.
Well, he has a book collapse.
Yeah.
So it could be how dynasties collapse in sports.
Yeah.
He's working on it right now. I'm sure we'll get him on the show. We'll bring him on, interview him about all that. Okay. Anyway, so the Wall Street Journal has this article about the Brewers bringing in Priester. Priester is a nobody. Priest has got like a 6 point something ERA before he comes into the Brewers. And the Brewers do this like, hey, throw your cut, get rid of your fastball. Just throw your cutter, and we're going to have you run a power sinker up there. Okay. And he turns around, he goes 13-3 last year, and he's the best pitcher on their staff last year. He's lighting it up. Okay. My thought is, do the Brewers have some sort of like insane modeling where they have looked at every single one of Priester's pitches and they almost do like if he wouldn't have thrown his fastball here, let's throw in, if he would have thrown a sinker here, what would have happened? If he would have thrown a cutter, I don't even know if they can do this. I would imagine computers can do everything now, but they have some sort of insane modeling where they can kind of put in, if he had thrown this, would it have led to a strike? Would it have led to an out? And they realize, oh, this guy shouldn't be throwing his fastball at all. Now, if the Brewers are doing that, you would imagine everybody else in the league is doing this. And so it doesn't really explain, like, the Brewers aren't the only one who's seeing this.
Right.
Are they? But they apparently are, because he comes over there and they're like, you're not going to throw your fastball anymore. I mean, wouldn't Boston or Pittsburgh have told him this if they would have known this?
Well, but
you're not going to throw your fastball anymore. You're going to throw your cutter. You're going to throw a power sinker, and it unlocks something.
Well, there's got to be multiple layers to it, right? It's like, it's not just, I'm sure every team is looking at it. It's a matter of scouting. They clearly identified, it's not just that they identified that this guy's sinker is really good, but maybe an adjustment to make his sinker even better and throw it more.
Right.
There's like, two factors here.
Like you said, there's so many levels or layers to this, or it is multidimensional, where they are seeing that in their analytic department. The scouts are seeing something else with his mechanics and his delivery. And I'm going to go to let's call it the Tommy Hotovy factor. Like, Tommy just he's a pitcher whisperer.
Right.
He knows what to say. He knows the right thing. I mean, I see this in teaching all the time. Is like, you're not going to get to every kid because, like, you don't talk the same language as every kid. Like, sometimes, like, the metaphor doesn't work. Sometimes they don't have the background knowledge. Sometimes you're just talking past each other. Sometimes you just don't like each other. Right. And you're not going to listen because there's just a personality thing. There's a human element to this where it's like sometimes the message doesn't land. And they go to a different spot. They get along with the pitching coach better. And therefore, yeah, they're going to listen to him. They might have been saying the same thing in Boston, but they go over to the Brewers, and it's Pat Murphy, who just seems to get, I want to hang out with Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy, yeah.
Because he's just a cool dude.
He's a real
laid
baseball
back, down to earth. And Pat's like, he says it a certain way. He uses a metaphor. He uses some salty language, and he's like, yeah, all right, this is what I got to do. So you're right that there's so many levels or layers to this, or multiple dimensions to this, where it's like, yeah, sometimes these guys, their potential isn't unlocked because of let's say there's 5 or 6 different factors going into this. Maybe even one of them was just off or not there. They get a change of scenery. They get a different voice. They hear a different metaphor for what they have to do. And all of a sudden it does unlock something for them.
Yeah, I think about that a lot with just all across sports and the human element of players and just comfort level. That they've been talking a lot back to Ben Brown, of just like his confidence is rising. They clearly unlocked something. Tommy, you referenced Tommy Hotovy, pitching coach for the Cubs. They clearly figured something out with Ben Brown, whether it's his third pitch or whether it's sequencing or something. Ben Brown, just, you can see that there's a confidence level, and confidence is not a measurable thing necessarily. It's just something like, I feel more comfortable in what I'm throwing right now. Different locations, different stops along the way in terms of people's journeys. You see relievers in particular. Relievers move around now more so than ever, it seems to me. But some relievers do really well in other spots. Tanner Scott was a guy who was really good at all of his previous stops. He's been better for the Dodgers last season, but he had a disastrous season last year. And you wonder if just there's a mental thing of, I'm on the Dodgers now, and I have to perform. And there's maybe something to do with the money that he was being paid or something like that. But you look at other relievers, Kirby Yates, another Dodger, former Dodger, who's now, I think he's on the Angels. He had a great season with Texas. Maybe he just liked living in Texas more than he liked living in LA.
Yeah.
It's there's a human element to this.
For
that I think
all of the analytics, for all of the sabermetrics, for all of the biomechanical measuring that they can do, the stuff that they can measure right now with the human body, like it's incredible. They know that a pitcher's getting tired based on he's not extending far enough and
Right.
his release points, like at a certain point again. So that's stuff they can measure. But a lot of it does come down to one of the factors is that's missing in this piece or in this puzzle, this giant piece is the personal side of it. I think going back to the mentality thing, they were talking about it in the broadcast against Cincinnati, in the Cubs broadcast against Cincinnati. It was Ben Brown that came to Craig Counsell and says, "Hey, I got a plan for getting better." And I think one of the things that the coolest thing I thought of that entire thing was Ben Brown said, "Look, for this entire time, for my entire career, I've always been thinking I just got to make the team. I want to be the 26th man. I want to be on that's my only goal is
Right.
just making the team."
Yeah.
He had this mindset shift where it's no, 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 no. I want to be the best player out there.
Right.
Well, that changes everything then.
Right.
Like that's one of those keys that gets turned to unlock that potential. And it was just a mindset shift by this guy of you're not just trying to make the team, man. You're trying to be the best player on the field.
Right. Yeah, the Ben Brown story is interesting. We've talked about it a couple of times again in episodes that are never going to air. That Ben Brown is just an interesting case, just because he came up with two pitches, came up with two really pretty strong pitches, one of them being more stronger than the other, and they always talk about him developing a third pitch, and now he has developed a third pitch. He is like a three pitch mix in which his third pitch is not used a ton, but you can tell that it has given him a little bit more confidence in just like, hey, I can get guys out, and I can figure this out, and I'm curious to see what the Cubs do with him. Do they move him back into a starting role? Does he become that fifth starter that replaces Colin Ray and the Colin Ray Javi Assad, combo punch that they throw out every 5 days? We'll see. I mean, but it goes back to the question of just like, is this the guy? And
yeah, because we're saying all of this and we're singing Ben Brown's praises, and I love Ben Brown. I've loved him from the start, and that's with recognizing, ooh, he's had some rough spots, okay, but he could just as easily fall off the table,
right? And
this season. Like, I mean, this is still a small sample size. And so it goes back to your original question of how do you know? How do you know one way or the other? How do you know somebody is not who we thought they were?
Well, can I bring up?
And how do we know that? Yeah.
Can I bring up another Cubs pitcher? This Cubs heavy podcast. Whoops.
Go.
Shota Imanaga. First year coming over from Japan, he was
dealing
incredible.
Right now, by the way.
He was incredible. And then last year, he wasn't incredible. And he had a really rough year for basically the entire year. And now he's back to being the Shota Imanaga that we saw when his first year he came over, when he was a Cy Young candidate. And again, there's some interesting numbers with Shota too. He's like amazing at home. You wonder if there's like some.
Yeah.
He had a player option, I think, this offseason, in which he picked up.
Yes.
And you wonder if some of it's just like, I just like being in Chicago and I like pitching at Wrigley, especially when it's cold, because I know I'm a fly ball pitcher and I know it's not going to.
I was just going to say, for the past 3 years, the wind's been blowing in at Wrigley, and I would also want to pitch at Wrigley if I'm a fly ball pitcher.
Him and Jameson Taillon,
that ball ain't going nowhere.
Yeah. These guys, so going back to the original question, we're going to keep going back to the original question. There's a couple guys.
We're going to keep getting off track too, but then we're going to keep going back to the original question if we can remember
back. And we're never going to come back. There are guys who you wonder what version of this guy are we getting? This is sports talk. Not that it matters. We don't really need to judge this guy for who he is forever. You just go along with his journey of his career. But you want, like, when it comes down to reliability and belief in what you're going to get from a player, what is the timetable? What is the sample size? You brought up sample size. How big of a sample size do you need in order for you to say, okay, this guy is the guy who we believe in, or this is the guy who we're trotting out there every time, and we can reliably believe that we're going to get this from him? Ildemaro Vargas is the same thing. How long? And he had a hitting streak going back to last year before it ended against the Cubs on Saturday. Like, his hitting streak was longer than 24 games to start out this season. How long does Ildemaro Vargas need to show that he's a 370 hitter for us to believe, oh, that's that's actually who he is as a player. How long is
If
that?
you query the Google machine with that question, you will eventually end up on a Fangraphs page where they talk about, hey, how do you know? How long is long enough? And there is for every single stat, like you'll know by X amount of plate appearances. You'll know by X amount of at bats, kind of thing like that. So I'm not gonna go through the list right now, but for like your strikeout rate, you kind of know it stabilizes. It's a stabilizing factor essentially. Is you'll know after about 60 plate appearances, yeah, this is their K rate.
Yeah.
Like this is what they are. For batting average, it is many, many, many plate appearances. Like it was in the like close to 800 or 900 plate appearances. So for some of these stats, you want to know, is this the guy? It's going to be a lower number. It's going to be, yeah, he's going to strike out a lot. And I don't really need to see a massive sample to know that you're going to strike out quite a bit. But for some of these stats, a batting average balls in play kind of the number, that's going to be 2 years worth of plate
Right.
appearances that you need to see. So for Ildemaro Vargas, cool. He's had a couple good months extending back to last year. He was player of April. Like he's great. Okay. Cool. That's great.
Keep it up, buddy.
Let's see if that's sustainable. Yeah, come back to me literally next year.
Yeah.
And then let's talk about Ildemar. If we're talking, if first of all, if we're still running this podcast a year from now,
No chance.
and then can we please revisit Ildemaro Vargas this time next year? I guarantee we're not going to be talking about him.
Well, and that goes for the same again. Back to Kyle Tucker. There's a lot of Dodger fans who are
Yeah, I
worried
was gonna say
about.
let's pivot to Kyle Tucker because there's another factor we haven't talked about here. As much as we talk about all of the metrics, the biomechanical stuff that they're looking at, the personal touch, where you want to be, the money stuff, the mentality, and everything like that. I think there is something that's missing in all of this, and this is more of the casual fan can even join in on this one. It's just an eye test.
Sniff
I
test.
could
Yeah,
have
eye
to.
test, sniff test.
I could have told you last year, and I did, when the Cubs kind of were like, yep, Kyle, thanks so much for your service. Be on your way. I was one of those like, don't let the door hit you on the way out. I do not want him back. For how good he was at the beginning of the year, and he was last year, I don't even think it was the injury so much. Definitely probably played a factor, but I think there would have been some regression. There would have been some decline even without the injury. Kyle Tucker rolls over a ton of balls.
Yeah.
It's just inherent in his swing. And I'm kind of going, dude, you got a sweet swing. There's a reason why you played Ted Williams in a movie. You have a sweet swing, okay?
The old
But
Jason
there's
Hayward.
some
The old roll
contact
over to
stuff there where it's
second.
just, you just roll everything over. I don't really want you on my team. And so when the Dodgers signed him for buku bucks, I'm like, good, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's you know, having us watch Kyle Tucker a lot last season, and both of us were pretty excited. Both of us, I think, we called each other early in the season, going, "This guy hits the ball hard
Yeah.
all the time."
And we always said he was the center of gravity in that
He was, yeah.
lineup as well. As much as JD would disagree with us, he made everybody around him better.
Well,
Like
that's a
he was
future that's a future episode. Hold on, let's
he
that's
was that guy in the lineup. Yeah. All right, let's put a pin in
that's a
that one.
semantic
Okay, yeah.
thing.
We'll let that grenade go off. Go later.
Yeah, much later. I think, for any of the Dodger fans who are listening, the Dodger fan, maybe just Eddie, because he's the only one who might listen to
Yeah.
this podcast.
How's it going, Eddie?
The scouting report, my scouting report early on Kyle Tucker, or at least in the first half of last season, would be like, this guy hits the ball not as hard as Shohei Ohtani, but like pretty close in terms of like how hard he hits the ball consistently. And the thing about Kyle Tucker early on last season was he didn't strike out nearly as much as Shohei Ohtani. For a guy who hit the ball as hard as he does, he had such a low strikeout rate. Again, something happened with his hand near the middle of last season. He was not the same guy for the rest of the season. And you just wonder, he started off slow this season. He's batting 242. Amazingly, Otani's hitting 240 right now, and there's not a lot of concern around him.
What's Otani's first name, Adam?
Shohei.
There you go.
I get it because we were talking about Shota.
It's a hard one, right? Yeah,
We
go
were talking
ahead.
about Shota. Um, there's a lot of concern and there's a lot of talk around Kyle Tucker right now in the Dodger community. And the Dodger community is hilarious. We're not going to go into it because we're not going to make enemies. But Kyle Tucker kind of starting off slowly, you kind of wonder, and this is the age range, right, for baseball players in which
Hmm.
start to lose some of that ability and you start to lose your ability to catch up to fastballs, your ability
Yep.
to especially hit the high fastball. And you know, we can go through the number of guys who have declined rapidly in baseball.
Yep.
And we can look at, I would actually have a couple guys in different sports that I want to talk about in terms of just precipitous declines. But Albert Pujols was a guy when he signed a giant contract with the Angels at I think his age, either 29 or 30 year. And then he just fell off. He was no longer the
Yeah.
machine.
Yeah, he witness protection program. You
Right.
like he fell off the face of the planet, and nobody knows where he went. It's
That's a function of his numbers and of being on the Angels. But yes, we're talking
yes,
about the
yeah,
numbers
yeah,
specifically.
yeah, yeah. No, I mean yes, it's well documented. There are 11 billion websites just dedicated to this, is just seeing the graph just go like this after 30. And it's just a lot of different things. I even saw one thing where it's like actually like something like hard hit rate even goes down after age 25.
Yeah.
Like it's even like some of that stuff even starts slowing down. That's why I think a lot of these teams are a little bit more willing to bring up their really young stars, because a lot of the sexy metrics, like a hard hit rate, a barrels, exit velocity, all that stuff, actually it's younger guys that are able just pounce and able to hit the ball really, really hard. And so it's like, well, why not get them when they're 23 and their average exit velo is 110? Yeah, put them in there. They might not be
Yeah.
seeing pitches. And that's where compensatory skills kind of comes in a little bit later. Like an Alex Bregman. A Bregman is not a Alex Bregman of, 10 years ago. That's not who he is. He's not that kind of hitter. But he has a lot of the other stuff
Well,
that
I was actually going to go
that
Alex
fill in the
Bregman.
gaps of the things that you kind of, it recedes over time, it declines over time. As that kind of shrinks, other things kind of come in and fill that vacuum a little bit.
Yeah, Bregman was actually somebody I was going to bring up. Just you're talking about compensatory skills. I think defense is something that hangs on for longer.
Yeah.
And you can, we see Dansby and Bregman even in
Yeah,
their
Dansby's in
later
the
20s,
lineup because he's still a stud at short.
right? And he can
That's
make all the
it.
plays and he has all the range, and those skills are going to be around
Yeah.
for a little while. I think, both you and I were a little bit skeptical of the Bregman signing simply because of his age. And, just wondering, is he going to be the guy in the lineup that we need him to be, sort of the motor? What we're finding with this Cubs team, and it's kind of nice to see given their latest run, is just the philosophy. And I don't want to give flowers to Jed Hoyer. I don't want to, but the philosophy is starting to show up a little bit. Like you're starting to see how this team was constructed with a little bit of intention, and it's sort of starting to coalesce and mesh, and it's starting to show up on the diamond. It's from defense to contact to working counts, and those are some of those skills that, yeah, hard hit rate might go down, but if Alex Bregman really knows his
Yeah.
zone, it doesn't matter because he can work counts and he can get on base, and that's how this Cubs team was built. It's just
That's
we're going to get on base and we're going to put pressure on pitchers and we're going to score a bunch of runs over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that's if you look at StatCast and if you look at the sexy metrics, none of the Cubs are up there in the top like 50.
Yeah.
And that's like you just said, that's not really what they're going for. It's a more, can we get every single one of our guys in like the 50 to 100 range? Like everybody's just going to be kind of like average in those really good metrics kind of thing. It's like if you put all of those things together, you're going to make a really good player. And then if you have 9 of those guys out in the field at the same time, that's a pretty good team right there.
I don't think we've answered the question yet.
No,
But
no.
well,
The eye test tells me Kyle Tucker's done, but at the same time, give him a season.
I mean, that's what I was going to go to. Like,
There's really nothing you can say in April. There are no patterns. There are no trends. It's May 2nd. What day is it today? I have no idea. Okay. May 5th. There we go.
Cinco de Mayo, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. We don't sell. Wow, I didn't even think about that. We don't celebrate Cinco de Mayo over here in Prague. Anyway,
You should.
uh,
You should go. You
yeah, we
should go.
should.
You should go to St.
I
Charles
should just
Bridge.
start going. Yeah, I should be parading the street with a sombrero right now
Do a
and
little
drinking a
mariachi.
Corona. Yeah. What was I saying? Kyle Tucker. Yeah, give him a year. I think he's a little bit done based on my, hey, I watch a lot of baseball and this is the eye test from my couch kind of thing. But again, you can't really say until you got like a year. I'd say maybe even 4 months.
Yeah,
Come back in August. Let's rewind, or let's come back to this. Let's revisit this in August.
yeah. I think it's just
When Kyle
interesting.
Tucker's in AAA.
Yeah. No, he's at the Ontario Tower Buzzers, and we're watching him at the beautiful single A team. Uh, yeah, I think it's just interesting, and to look at arcs of guys' careers and just you kind of wonder what happened. You know, for a lot of guys, it's injury. For a lot of guys,
Yeah.
particularly when skills fall off, right? There are if for baseball, it's an age thing. It seems like your just skills diminish over time and you just lose it. I think across sports, it's really interesting. That probably similar. You know, skill and age obviously atrophies your skill over time, right? Age just has an effect across all sports. LeBron seems to not be affected by it, although his basketball IQ accounts for a lot of the things that he's able to do and
Compensatory
compensate
skill.
for. Yeah.
Yep.
Um, but you know, I was doing some research for this episode.
Oh
With
boy.
we have a
You
new
didn't,
hire. We have a hire. I
oh,
hired
you
somebody. I
didn't
hired
kind of
somebody.
push that down the stream to our researcher.
I hired somebody.
Okay.
Her name is Anita Lotmore, and she's going to be helping us out with research. Anita Lotmore. She was helping me out with some research, but the difficulty in some of this research is, you know, again definitions of who this player is. You look into the numbers of some guys, and I'll just list off some guys that I looked at specifically. Kurt Warner. Kurt Warner didn't start playing professional football until age
Yeah,
20.
yeah. Grocery store miracle.
And
Bagging groceries to Super Bowl MVP. Got it. Yeah.
he's probably the most extreme version of this, just in terms
Yeah.
of like you came out of
Better
nowhere.
with age.
Right.
Some guys are fine wine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I looked at because the 2015 playoffs were stuck in my brain. We're going to go back to baseball real quick. Daniel Murphy, for some reason, stuck in
Oh
my brain.
yeah.
Remember Daniel Murphy and
Daniel Murphy could
NLCS?
not be put out at all.
NLCS, I'm pretty sure he hit 19 home runs against the Cubs in that series.
Yeah.
Uh,
And his batting average was like 900 something.
well,
They literally could not get the guy out.
well, it's interesting. I kind of remember him like that was his coming out party. And remember, after the 2015 season, he actually left the Mets and
To
signed
go
with
to
the
the
Nationals.
Natties. Yeah.
I looked at his numbers on Baseball Reference. He's been good. He was good the entire time. Like he was like an average 290, 280 hitter. Now, he had a home run pop in that 2015, 2016 season. He had ended up hitting like in the mid 20s where he was normally in the single digits. But again, when we're defining kind of what a player is as a skill, it's like there are guys who pop off for maybe a season or two, but then they regress back to who they were
Mhm.
before. And that's just it's hard to find guys who were this for a long period of their career, and then they jumped up like levels in skill, and then they
And then
sustained that
maintained
for a
it.
while. Like
Yes.
again, you get a blip, but you don't get the rising up a level and then maintaining very often.
So I think that's what separates the really good teams from the great teams, let's say, is they can identify who's going to bust out for about a year or two and then be like, yeah, bye, see ya. We
Yeah.
know the crash is coming. And then the other teams that are the other guys who they realize this guy has had kind of some, low performance, low metrics, low numbers, everything like that. But there's something there. And if we can bump him up a couple levels, he's going to stay there for a while. Like the teams that can identify both And I think it's the teams that can identify the guys who are truly great that haven't exhibited yet and they can lock them up for a long time. I think those teams are set apart. Like they can just be like, yeah, we know what we're doing. We can identify talent and we know talent over a long period of time as well.
Yeah, there was another player that Anita looked up for me, Dennis Rodman. There was a list that I looked at, and Dennis was on the list, and I didn't understand what this like. I looked up, you know, guys who had jumps in their career and became really good kind of all of a sudden. Dennis made the list, and I didn't quite understand why he made the list. And then I looked deeper into his numbers, and he did have quite a bit of a jump in his 29-year-old season, in his I think his final season before he moved to the
With the,
Bulls.
I was going
It
to
was with
say
the
it would have
Pistons.
had to been with the
He
Pistons.
was with the Pistons, and he had a Dennis was known for rebounding and defensive defense, right? And he was always a really good defensive player. And he had a jump in his 1991 season from like 7 rebounds a game to 12 rebounds a game, which is pretty significant. But that is married to a 7 minute per game increase in his playing time, as well as just it's a decrease in some of those Pistons guys were getting a little bit older. He was probably being asked to do a little bit more. And, Dennis is an interesting case of just like, I would disagree with the idea that Dennis just became a really good player all of a sudden. I think that
No,
was always who Dennis was. It's
yeah.
just a matter of he got more opportunity. Or, and in the case when he moved to the Bulls, it's just like sometimes systems
The
unlock
stars
players.
align.
Yeah.
Absolutely. All the pieces fell into place. And it's almost like a planetary alignment thing where it's just like, no, everything needs to be just right. The conditions just right for this person to shine. Now, that doesn't necessarily make somebody an orchid. We're not talking about a Steven Strasberg here. I can only pitch if it is 75
Right.
degrees and sunny. Like
Right.
that's not what is it, but it's more of like you said, it's the system that's in place that unlocks the potential in somebody that allows them to sustain success over time.
Well, and Chuck
Um,
Daly and the
it's
Pistons
all
were
about culture.
yeah, I
Yeah.
mean the Pistons only asked him to go and beat up people. Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
for the first 8 years of his career, all he was expected to do was just go and push
Hey,
Michael Jordan around.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then he gets to the Bulls, and that's still part of his game, but he's also part of Phil Jackson's triangle offense.
Yes.
And that makes him that his role
It
changes.
unlocks a whole other level that wasn't apparent before because he didn't have that system around him. Yeah.
The skill doesn't all of a sudden just I think about it in video game terms of just like when you're a kid and you play a video game and you go into the roster and you edit players and you tick up the little ticker and you move them all to 99. That's it's not as though the numbers just all of a sudden jumped up 1 year. That guy was always that guy. It's just a matter of environment. And I think
Yep.
that's kind of what happened with Dennis. Um,
teams teams are ecosystem. Well, every organization, every system is an ecosystem that, hey, if you are in the right ecosystem and there's equilibrium in that ecosystem, that means it's working, kind
right.
of thing. And you have your niche in the ecosystem, you thrive, you survive because everybody is where they're supposed to, every entity in the ecosystem is where they're supposed to be. The Bulls were a perfect ecosystem. Now, yes, they had the greatest player of all time, but they had the greatest player of all time, and they had Phil Jackson, and they had Scotty, and they had Ron Harper and Luke Longley. And they had everybody who they needed in the right spot. What are you discussed with Luke Longley?
How do you not mention Tony Kukoc?
Tony Kukoc.
How do you not mention
Tony was great.
Tony? Yeah, it's and you just that makes you wonder about the other side of things too, right? Because there were other players that I looked at of Gilbert Arenas, again, another NBA example, but Gilbert Arenas was awesome for
Do
like,
you know who I am?
yeah, Gilbert Arenas was really great for the Wizards for a couple of years, and then he pulled out a gun
And then
in the locker
and then
room.
he started getting a lot of legal trouble, and he started getting pulled over by cops and dropping a, well, you can't arrest me. Do you know who I am?
I'm Agent Zero. Come on. Like there are, again, another guy who had a precipitous drop in numbers and just like
Yeah.
performance. And Gilbert, you could maybe chalk that up to just environment and like the word you
Right
mentioned,
time, right place.
ecosystem. And
Yep.
the Wizards kind of just fell off.
Equilibrium in the ecosystem is what I'm going with. Is you found the right ecosystem, you kind of fill the niche, you're there, you have equilibrium, everything's in harmony, everything's going to gel, everything's going to work, you're going to have a lot of success. One little thing goes off, one little, like, this guy leaves and it throws the entire system kind of into chaos. And that's what every organization, whether it is a business, whether it is a sports team, whatever it is, that's what you're looking for, is equilibrium in the ecosystem. It's really, really hard, especially the more moving parts that you have to try to align everything. It's difficult, but yeah, that's what you're going for.
There's two more names that I want to bring up, just kind of as interesting examples. One of them is not an interesting example. I just say he has a funny name, but we'll get to him last. The last one was a football one of Sean Alexander. Sean Alexander was really good for the Seahawks for the first few years of his career. He ended up winning MVP in, I think, 2005, and he had one of the best seasons up till that point as a running back. And then his career cratered, and he was out of the league 3 years later. And I believe in the 2006 season he actually was injured, and that contributed a little bit. Again, there are a lot of guys whose injuries contribute to their fall off. Darryl Strawberry is another one. Injuries, along with some other things that happened to Darryl. Darryl's a supremely nice man now. I met him a couple weeks ago at Legends Attic. Great guy, but obviously he was on the path to a very, very great career when he started, before he got into some trouble and some injuries derailed his career. But Sean Alexander is another guy of just like, what happened here? And the one question I have for you, I have one question for you when it comes to Sean Alexander. Is Sean Alexander the reason why we have seen
nobody takes a running back anymore?
Nobody wants a running back for big money.
So that's why. Well, I was just going to say some of this is based on position, though, as well. Is even then, I think the popularity of the long-term workhorse running back was kind of in decline. Like you kind of just like guys just kind of wore down a little bit. Not everybody's a Walter Payton. Not everybody's I mean, Barry quit early. Barry retired early. But Emmitt Smith, you're not going to get. LT was another guy. I think Danian Tomlinson was one of the best running backs of all time, another workhorse. But the fact that I just can name, like, 5 guys, so it's like, yeah, you had a 20-year career as a running back. Eric Dickerson, another one. Like, this doesn't happen. Huh?
Also a nice guy. I've met him.
Yeah, Edie.
Yeah, Edie.
So I think that the Sean Alexander example is a little bit more contingent upon the fact that he's a running back. It is punishing. It is a position where you're going to have a limited window to begin with by the nature of the position, the nature of the role, the nature of just the job. Like it's sorry, you're going to have 5 years. Yeah. It's over after that. I bet you can even take a look at guys now. I've not looked at this at all, but I bet you can take it like Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Jahmyr Gibbs is phenomenally talented for the Lions. Sorry, his production is going to start falling off, especially without David Montgomery there. And if he has to shoulder more of the load, like Jahmyr Gibbs, you're just going to get tired. Well, running backs do not have longevity.
Well, there was a stretch there around the time, I think, of Sean Alexander, of just like the Chiefs had running backs kind of like every different. Priest Holmes was there for a couple of years.
Through. There's a different guy in the backfield every week. Yeah.
Priest Holmes was awesome for them for like 2 years.
Yes, he was. Like 2 years.
Penn State, Larry Johnson was there for like a year.
Yes.
Awesome. Like
Larry Johnson was great.
They kind of churned out guys. But yeah, you look at that early 2000s to 2010, and that's really where you started to see the running back position just become really devalued. Now you're seeing a little bit of an uptick maybe here, and that's a function of
guys taking better care of themselves. I mean, again, this is another multidimensional, multi-factor reason for this, but guys taking a little bit better care of themselves, because you can point to a Saquon Barkley. Saquon's he has had a lot of success over a pretty lengthy career now, and he'll keep going for another couple of years. But yeah, some of these guys are kind of turning kind of they're making a career out of running back, where for a 20-year window,
I mean, Derrick Henry
get paid in the 3 years that you're producing, because you're not going to produce much longer after that.
Not everybody's Derrick Henry, not everybody's Saquon Barkley. I mean, that's and you got to look at that as, okay, who was it that just the Cardinals just drafted Jeremiah Love from Notre Dame, and you
Yeah.
just wonder if I'm only going to get 5 years out of this guy, is this really worth it?
And I
Considering
was
we
going to say,
don't have
you're
a
not in a
quarterback.
window to win.
Right.
Cool.
Right. This is
Way to
a
waste
really,
a world-class talent.
yeah, it's just a very strange thing. All right, last name, and this one was just for fun. The NBA is easy to look up these kind of jump guys just because they have the Most Improved Player award. In 1992, do you know who won the NBA Most Improved Player award? I believe he played for the Washington Bullets.
Whoa. I do not. I do not know.
All right, his name, Purvis Ellison.
Yes. Heard of him.
Purvis Ellison, it was his third year in the league, and
Yeah.
we should note that in the NBA, again, different sports, you kind of know what a guy is at a certain point. And Daryl Morey kind of has come out and said, like, you kind of know what a guy is in the NBA by his third season. His third season,
Mhm.
you kind of know what you're going to expect. And the most improved player, from what I know about the NBA, like a lot of times that's kind of where they get the award. Tyrese Maxey, probably the most famous one more recently, who got that award pretty early, and he's made that jump. But Purvis got his award in the third year. He was averaging in his first two seasons, he averaged 8 points and 10 points per game. And in his third season, he averaged 20 points per game. And then he
That's
went,
quite the leap.
yeah, quite the leap. He
They
then
just kept feeding him. They
he
must have
then
had nobody else on the team.
well, his minutes per game went from 25 to 38. So clearly this is just yeah, we don't got anybody else. We're just gonna give the ball to Purvis.
Hey, somebody's got to rack up stats.
But we were talking,
Somebody's on the floor.
yeah, I mean, this goes for
Purvis is out there.
the thing about the NBA is like, and you hear NBA heads talk about this a lot, is like there are a bunch of guys who can score 20 points in an NBA game, like a bunch of guys. And there are teams who they just need somebody's got to score, and so
Somebody's got to score. Absolutely.
Purvis was on that team, and then the next year he went back down to 17, and then he went below 10 points a game for the rest of his career.
Yeah.
The funny thing about Purvis is he's under his basketball reference page. He's got two nicknames. All right. Never Nervous Purvis, which you would
Yeah.
guess, good nickname,
Yeah.
terrible
Got
first
it.
name, but
Yeah.
Never Nervous Purvis, you would assume he got that in the year that he was scoring 20 points a game. But then his second nickname, Out of Service Purvis, which is horrible, which you assume he got after
That came
Never
after the
Nervous
fall.
Purvis.
That came
Yeah,
after the crash. Yeah.
he started playing poorly, and everybody was like, "Oh boy, Out of Service Purvis is here." Oh man, that is just
Mitch,
the worst change in
man, you can
nickname.
do so much with the name Purvis. We need more Purvises in the
I know.
world.
Purvis, what a name. Anyway, that
Yeah.
wraps up at least my coverage of kind of this topic of, hey, Purvis Ellison, blip guy, and then there's some guys who, rise and sustain, and then there are some guys who just drop off. There are a lot of factors.
Yeah. 1,000 points of light. Stay the course. It's like I said, multidimensional. Many different layers and levels.
And we'll check back.
Right ecosystem.
We're gonna check back in.
Equilibrium. I'm just throwing out words
Yeah,
now. There you go.
dartboard. We're gonna check back in on Kyle Tucker in August. We're gonna check back
August.
in
Yeah.
on Ildemaro
Vargas
in
next
a
year.
year.
Yeah.
And we'll
We're
probably
putting
check
pins
in.
in those.
We're gonna probably check in on Tanner Scott in August as well, because that will give him enough time to kind of see what his career arc is like with the Dodgers. But with that, let's take a quick break and then we'll come on back. This episode is brought to you by Legends Attic. Legends Attic is in Claremont, California for all your memorabilia and trading card needs. Big this week, Star Wars, May the 4th be with you, was yesterday. Eddie is a giant nerd. We've got a Hayden Christensen signed replica Darth Vader helmet. We've got an Anakin Skywalker replica lightsaber. We've got an Obi-Wan replica lightsaber. We've got a number of things signed by Harrison Ford, including this really cool card that's going to be posted on the Instagram if you want to check it out. We also got photos signed by Carrie Fisher, rest in peace. And yeah, we got a lot of cool stuff. We did a really cool Star Wars thing last year. Oral Wan Kenobi which is famous for, they had a bobblehead of him back in his Dodgers heyday. But yeah, a lot of cool memorabilia, not just sports stuff, not just football helmets, not just trading cards. We have a lot of cool memorabilia at the shop. Go and check it out. It's off of Foothill in Claremont. A lot of cool events coming up too. Next week, Pedro Guerrero for Legendary Tuesday at the Buzzer Stadium. Dodger legend. Looking forward to that. So check out towerbuzzers.com for tickets, and you upgrade to the Legendary package to meet and greet Pedro Guerrero. Legends Attic, thank you so much. Now back to the show. All right, Andy, you have a couple segments that you wanted to do.
I got one
Great.
for the sake of time, and I think I want to make this one a steady one that we just keep coming back to show for show. I'm gonna throw out a stat for you, and you have to tell me what this stat is. Now, some of them will be probably a little bit more familiar, like a slugging percentage type thing. I don't want to start you with an easy one though.
Okay.
Some will be a little bit more obscure that just about nobody except StatCast and Fangraph people have ever heard of. And so let's start with a fun one. This segment will be brought to you by Oscar Mayer because the stat is xBACON. xBACON. Adam, I'm going to ask you one. Do you know what xBACON is? And then I want you to name me the top 5 xBACON guys in Major League Baseball right now. So go ahead, explain xBACON to the people.
It sounds like a really poorly marketed alternative to bacon. Like, hey, you don't want pork? Here's xBACON. Is that what it is?
Right. And it's not turkey bacon. That's something totally different, which I'm one of those crazy people. I actually like turkey bacon over regular bacon.
Okay, fine. But what is xBACON? Because it's not
xBACON is not turkey
something
bacon.
I can get. You're saying it's not something I can get at the grocery store?
I mean, it would be. I'm totally with you. It's like it doesn't need to be an alternative to bacon, but I don't want it to like let me down. Like it can't be like a tofu bacon. Like you can't like market tofu bacon as like xBACON. Well, like it's not extreme bacon.
I guess xBACON could be a really cool marketing version of like amazing bacon. Like this pig was extremely fat.
This is an award-winning pig. This was Babe the pig. This thing is a blue ribbon pig.
It's an extreme pig that we're taking the bacon from.
See, I was gonna go more with I kind of like that. No, it's something else. Maybe like it's like a mix of like bison meat and like I don't know, like Wagyu beef or something.
I was gonna go Wagyu, but Wagyu always makes sure that you know it's Wagyu.
That's
everything
true.
On every menu, it's
everything is Wagyu now. Yes,
the people that run the Wagyu collaboration, they just
great marketing. They know what they were doing. They're getting their name on everything.
Wagyu in every if we're putting on the menu, you're gonna say Wagyu. It's not some other thing. It's Wagyu.
Yes. Yeah.
Kind of
fine. It's Wagyu xBACON.
Wagyu.
It's going to be Wagyu and bison meat. Or what's another cool animal that people are like, yeah, I'll eat that. Like a bison burger's cool. I'll eat a bison burger.
Where's Tyler when we need crocodile meat?
Yeah. That could be xBACON. Bison and crocodile.
I'm pretty sure crocodile meat is just like a jerky. I think that stuff gets turned into a jerky.
Yes. Yeah.
Which couldn't bacon be turned into a jerky?
You would imagine most meats could be dried. I don't know. I'm not a butcher. I am not.
We need to get a butcher on the show.
I think it would be cool to kind of salt my own meat, dry my own meat. We're gonna go back to xBACON, the baseball stat. Adam, do you have any guesses as to what xBACON is measuring?
All right. So I'm going to skip the X for a second. B.
Yeah, come back to that. That one's a tough one.
Extra base. Extra. No, I have no idea. This would be a terrible thing to listen to, me trying to fumble through what each letter in this acronym means.
Actually, I think this is going to be the segment our listeners appreciate the most is me making you look like an idiot.
Well, okay. That doesn't take very much.
Yeah, I was going to say, it'll hopefully be every segment. It'll probably be every segment.
Yeah, who's the idiot now? We can't say segment.
Say
says
what?
who's the idiot who says can't say
Yeah, you
segment?
can't say segment. That's the guy who can't say Shohei
Shohei
Ohtani's
says
first
the guy who can't say Shohei. Go ahead.
name. Anyway, xBACON, we're back on track. xBACON is going to be, the X actually stands for expected. So it's looking at your expected batting average for the contact that you make. So we're looking at guys who, hey, you hit the ball really, really hard, exit velo, and you hit it at this launch angle. Of all of the balls that have ever been hit in all of Major League Baseball that had that exact exit velo and that exact launch angle, how many of them have been a base hit? So you take all of their hits, all of the contacts they had, and so you add all those up, put it on top of all the hits they've had or all the batted balls in play they've had, and that should be their expected batting average. All right, makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And can I answer the question, or are you teeing up
I want
more?
the top five now. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just going to go with the guys who hit the ball hard: O'Neal Cruz, Ellie De La Cruz, Shohei Ohtani. Who else could be on that list? I'll throw out Randy Arozarena. And how about that Mickey Moniak guy from Colorado? He's raking.
Okay.
Is that five?
You hit one. I think hitting 1 out of 5
okay.
is pretty good. So O'Neal Cruz was number 5.
Got it.
That was a good one. And yes, O'Neal Cruz hits the
He hits the ball really hard.
About 1,000 miles an hour every single time. He doesn't hit it all the time, but man, he hits it 1,000 miles an hour when he does hit it.
If Javier Baez is on this list, I'm going to freak out.
I mean, everybody's on the list, but you just got to keep scrolling to find some guys. So the guys at the top of the list, though, guy who is having an absolute monster year. You know, how about this? I'm going to give you teams, and you got to guess who on that team.
Well, he's having a monster year in terms of xBACON.
xBACON.
Yeah,
expected batting average for contact here. All right, 2 Yankees make the list.
Aaron Judge.
Bingo. Number 4.
How about that Rice kid who's the catcher for them?
Raking right now. He is number 1 in the league.
What's his first name?
xBACON.
Brendan Rice? What's his first name?
Ben Rice.
Ben Rice. Yeah. Okay. Who are the other two?
Okay.
Who are the other 2 teams?
So Ben Rice is number 1. You have now number 1. Number 4 was Aaron Judge. And number 5 with O'Neal Cruz. Guy at number 2. I would have never got this guy in a million years, but after thinking about it for 3 seconds, I went, it makes sense. Natties. Washington Nationals.
James Wood.
Bingo. He does punish the ball. Another guy who doesn't hit it a lot, but when he does, the ball explodes.
He's a big guy. We'll finish the last list, and then I have a question about this list because I'm confused about it. But go ahead. What's the next one?
Okay. Number 3. Another guy I would not have guessed. St. Louis Cardinals.
Jordan Walker.
Bingo. There's your top 5.
Yeah.
Ben Rice, James Wood, Jordan Walker, Aaron Judge, O'Neal Cruz.
Speaking of guys who, I mean, Jordan Walker fits into what we were talking about earlier.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, what?
I want to know who Jordan Walker is. For all of the hype, we have no idea.
Jordan Walker, he was supposed to be like the hot thing he was like the biggest prospect, and he started off really slow.
Some of those metrics, like an xBACON that nobody knows, but the insiders are, they use it to run their models and projections and like that. Like some of his kind of sabermetric stuff, they're good. But that doesn't translate to nobody's watching Jordan Walker and going, wow, this guy's a stud.
Okay, xBACON, for as great as the name is, I do have a question about this statistic. The guys that I listed, they got to hit the ball. I mean, how we reference like James Wood doesn't hit the ball often enough, and that's where it's like, how are they weighting this stat? Because
this is where it's so. This is not a stat for. It's not going to track walks and strikeouts. It is only based on contact. if they make contact, what is their expected batting average for those balls that they put in play?
All right,
All
for the
right.
kids,
But you're
out
right,
there,
and there is another stat. I'm going to save this one because there is another stat then which will tell you what their expected kind of on base is when you factor in strikeouts and when you factor in walks. That's a different stat. Because you're right.
comprehensive stats are important. Kids out there, stats aren't everything. You got to look at the context of certain stats.
Yeah.
And xBACON, you got to look at the context. If they don't hit the ball, it doesn't really matter what
It doesn't matter how hard
is.
you hit it. You can hit it that one hit you have out of 100 plate appearances. The other 99 times you're striking out. But that one time your exit velo was 200 miles an hour and your launch angle was a perfect 16 degrees. Wow, your expected batting average of balls in contact, your xBACON
is
it's 1,000.
It's 1,000, yeah. xBACON. Very good. Delicious.
You have 1,000 xBACON.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure in a future episode we'll get into it, but that was a good segment. I like that. Well, I want the other one. I want the more comprehensive stat.
Yeah.
Because I think it's more helpful, but xBACON sounds good.
Well, I'll slide that one in. Not next week, because then you're gonna be expecting it. It's got to be a time when it's like, whoa, coming at you.
Yeah.
Next week we'll go a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah. All right. Well, this has been.
We'll mix it up. We'll go a batting stat and a pitching stat.
All right.
Those will be fun.
Sounds good.
Who's got the highest spin rate? I'm not giving it away, but fun with something like who's got the highest spin rate on their slider?
I'm never going to remember that by next week. If you come back with that, I'm not going to remember that you said
well,
this.
the funny thing with this one is like, do you know pitchers that throw a slider? Or it's like, you have to make sure that they throw a slider first. If you're throwing out Jacob DeGrom does not throw a slider.
R.A. Dickey.
Yeah. There you go.
Well, you have.
Speaking of, I didn't know there's a knuckle. I thought all the knuckleballers had died. I thought that they went extinct. But the one kid
is still alive.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know what I'm saying. Rest in peace, God. Whatever you said for Carrie Fisher. Anyway, I didn't know that there was a knuckleballer for San Diego. What's the kid's name? The Cubs just faced him.
I know who you're talking about. I don't remember his name though.
Well, it starts with a W.
Walker.
Yeah, he throws 92 mile an hour fastball.
Matt Waldron.
Well, I was gonna say it starts with a W. Yeah.
Matt Waldron, I believe his name is.
Hey, good for him. I want to see some more knuckleballers in there. The R.A. Dickies, the Tim Wakefields, they were I would say an important element to the game. Some a little funky, some a little bit different.
Talk about another guy who came out of nowhere. R.A. Dickey didn't develop his knuckleball until like his mid-30s, and then he won that Cy Young that I think everybody thinks that Kershaw should have won. Was that the one? No, he would have been in the AL.
Yeah.
We'll have to look that up. But R.A. Dickey, another guy, was not super good until he developed his knuckleball. But hey, whatever. Well, you've wasted a perfectly good hour plus listening to the
Sorry about
podcast.
That.
Thanks for sticking with us if you did. I'm sure you won't be back next week, but we will be back.
Grandma will.
Yeah.
Grandma's always there for us. Thanks, Grandma.
You're going to text her this right as soon as we post it, right? We want to thank Legends Attic for sponsoring this podcast, as well as Oral Hershiser Chevrolet. Chevy is having their grand opening event on May 28th. You have to go into the dealership to register for tickets. The event will be held at the Chino City Hall in the lawn.
Sounds exclusive.
No, it's going to be.
Can anybody walk in and grab a ticket?
Probably.
It's just more of you have to be bodily present.
I would go into the dealership and register. That's how you're going to get the best access to all the fun things. There's going to be food vendors. There's going to be drinks. There's going to be live music. There's going to be Joe Kelly. There's going to be Jaime Harin. There's going to be there's going to be Mike Sosha. I'm going to be talking to him because he seems like a cool guy. But a lot of fun things happening at Chevy. So make sure to go to the dealership in Chino. Even if you're in Michigan, which there might be a listener to from Michigan,
like Grandma.
Drive to Chino. I know, Grandma, you don't drive anymore, but get Aunt Jeannie, get my dad, drive to Chino, register to go to this event. It's going to be a lot of good time. So again, thank you, Legends Attic and Hershiser Chevrolet. Thanks to our executive producers, Eddie, Head of the Jackson Dart Social and Pleasure Club, Alizadeh, and our other executive producer, Christian Too Short Shorts, quack, 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 Mr. Duckworth, Alizadeh, as well as our crack staff, our producer, Philip Airtime, our researcher, Anita Lotmore. And here's the rest of the list of people. Our personal trainer is B. O Problem. Our staff therapist is Amanda Hugginkiss. Our Russian prostate examiner is Ivana Tinkle. Our head of our romantic movie division is Hey, Would You Cuddle Me? Our desk chair testers are Wilma Buttfit and Fitz Patush. Our male relationship consultant is Turner Luce. Our director of grade disputes is Viola Fuss. Our listener service operator is Levon Hold. Our hot dog eating contest representative is Eaton Doolittle. Our quality control officer is Upton Left Us. Our station fundraiser is Holly Unlikely. And our French dog walker is
Yeah, there's
Poupon.
definitely no quality control on this entire show. None. He did up and leave us. You're right.
Our French dog walker is Poupon de Grasse. Thanks, Click and Clack, for the inspiration. Thanks, Bart Simpson, for the inspiration. Until next week, thanks for listening. This has been the Basement Podcast.